Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Rich Lowry is the editor of National Review. You can follow him on X at Rich Lowry. He's also the host of the Editor's Podcast and the McCarthy Report. Rich, I just had on Dan Senor, and I asked him a question about whether he was going to keep doing the Call Me Back podcast and keep educating Gentiles about Israel, and he's going to. They're going to expand ARC. I am curious, after this war apparently has come to a close, how much do you think the editors will keep an eye on Israel and the Middle East versus everything else going on out there, like the shutdown in China? Do you have like a priority board in the office that you consult before you do an episode?
No, it's pretty much the night before a text chain, just whatever happens to be in the news and we feel is most important. That's been the Gaza war a lot over the last 2 years. It will slip down our priority list, but if big important things happen, we'll be there. And this was just so huge, Hugh. And Monday was such a gratifying day, just incredible. And I was a little skeptical on phase two, but Hamas doesn't have the leverage it did. It doesn't have hostages anymore. So it'd be great, if some international force, Indonesia or whatever, goes in and disarms them. A little skeptical that's going to happen, but Israel is in a much better place than it was on October 6th.
Do you think it is possible, or even likely, that Israel will give them a deadline and then will return to kinetic operations, including ground penetrating ordnance and flooding the tunnels, which they can do now without fear of harming the hostages?
I think some time will have to pass before they do that. I think they have more discretion in how they operate now. Hamas isn't going to invade Israel again anytime soon. Hamas isn't going to be capable of the kind of missile barrage it was on October 7th anytime soon. So I think Israel has a lot more options here, and they probably wouldn't want to step on Trump's moment in the immediate aftermath. I'm sure they'd rather let a decent interval pass.
Okay, now I wanted to broaden out to something I was talking to Dan Senor about. You're the heir to William F. Buckley, who brought a lot of American Catholics with him into the Republican Party. Catholics used to be a pretty unified Democratic voting bloc when I was a kid and growing up, but Buckley did a lot of work in that regards, and others came behind him. Do you think the same thing is going to happen to American Jews making a long march over to the Republican side? Because, boy, they are not wanted in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, maybe glacially. So it's this is just a deep commitment a lot of liberal Jews have to the Democratic Party and a deep allergy they have to conservatism and to evangelical Christianity, even though evangelical Christians are some of their best friends now, that just doesn't penetrate. So I defer to Dan on this kind of question, but I'm skeptical it's going to happen anytime soon.
So the national security appeal of the Republican Party doesn't break through because there are really two parties on national security. I'm afraid Democrats would cut us to the bone. I think
Mhm.
Donald Trump will continue to make healthy investments, and those investments benefit the equal of any of our allies, which is Israel. Does that not persuade American Jews to come our way?
I think it should, and I think it probably will at the margins, but I think domestic cultural issues matter more to most people in the United States, including Jews on Israel, than foreign affairs. So
All right.
if it changes, it's going to be slowly over time.
Bigger question I've got coming on after you, Sarah Bedford from the Washington Examiner. She's young. Michael Singleton from CNN. He's young. You just lost the estimable Mr. Butler. Jack Butler went over to the Wall Street Journal, which is great for him. Sorry for your loss over at National Review. Do you think the ranks of the Youngs on the center right and right are stronger than they were 30 years ago or about the same?
I think they're stronger. I think we have more outlets that are cultivating more young journalists. There are more opportunities for young conservatives interested in having an impact, interested in journalism and politics than there were before. So I think it's better. Now, there's some bad trends as well, right? We all saw the text chains from those young Republicans or college Republicans that were horrifying. So nothing is ever purely up or purely down. Everything's kind of mixed. But I think net, it's better than it was 30 years ago. When I was just getting my start, Hugh, I had two options. I could be an intern for the American Spectator, or I could be an intern for National Review. Now there are
Ha!
dozens of other opportunities.
There are, and there are people that can make their own way on podcasts, but there are also lots of rabbit holes you can go down and end up with a
Mhm.
fairly twisted ideology. The good news is Hillsdale's out there pumping out people, and
Oh
soon
gosh. Yeah.
others will come along and do the same thing. Has Hillsdale, do you think, impacted the conservative ecosystem?
Oh, hugely. I think National Review's had a Yale association because of our founder, obviously, but I think we've had more Hillsdale interns and fellows than from any other school. And these people, to a man and a woman, are so hugely impressive, right? They're committed, they're educated, and just a great tribute to that school and what they're doing there.
And they can write. Now, last question, Rich. In the Reagan years, there were lots of youngsters. I was one of them, walking around with briefcase, saying nothing. Our opinions were not wanted. People told us what to do, and we did them. That's changed a little bit now. But do you see in Team Trump a conscious effort to bring up the next generation?
I don't know how conscious it is, but I imagine, Hugh, I've graduated out of this myself long ago, but I became a conservative because of Reagan. And not necessarily because I rationally thought through everything that Reagan thought and believed and said. It's because he was a hugely compelling, charismatic figure. So I imagine there are just ranks of young people that feel the same way about Donald Trump. Now, eventually, you need to think it through yourself. You need to go deeper than that. But he's there's going to be a generation of Trump conservatives or Trump Republicans the way there was a generation of Reagan Republicans among young people.
I hadn't thought about that, and I think you're right. Make sure that you go like and subscribe to the editors that Rich hosts every week, and to the McCarthy Report, which Rich hosts every week, so that you get the very best in conservative thought. Rich Lowry, thank